Let's talk about Tibet. Dalai Lama has just said that his successor will be born outside China. Unexpectedly, this hasn't sat well with Beijing. So let's ask some questions as we always do. Who will succeed the 14th Dalai Lama? How will China respond to the appointment? Will this be a fresh flashpoint in India-China ties? And what lies ahead for Tibetans under the next Dalai Lama? I'm Ananya Dutta. Let's get some answers. "66 years ago, on this day, thousands of monks took to the streets of the capital city of Lhasa. There were murmurs that the Chinese wanted to assassinate their leader, so they surrounded the main palace, guarding the 14th Dalai Lama sitting inside. The next few days saw a brutal crackdown, which ultimately forced Tibetans to flee in exile. Among them was the 23-year-old Dalai Lama, who dressed as a soldier, carried a rifle, and covered his face. He and his entourage of thousands crossed the Indian border through Arunachal Pradesh and penned a letter to then Prime Minister Jawaharlal Nehru, asking for refuge. New Delhi provided shelter to every single Tibetan refugee, and since then, Dalai Lama has established a government in exile with Dharamshala as their new capital. Back at home, bloody clashes eroded every semblance of Tibetan people and their culture. The People's Liberation Army destroyed monasteries and slaughtered people. It ultimately led to the region losing its autonomy and the Chinese taking control of it fully.
We decide not seeking independence. Try to remain while we remain within the People's Republic of China. We should have sort of certain right for preservation of our own culture.
In 7 days from now, the Dalai Lama will complete another year in exile. At the age of 89, he worries about the future of his people. At one point, he had said that the line of spiritual leaders might end with him, but he seems to have changed his mind. The spiritual leader has released his book Voice for the Voiceless today, in which he writes, and I'm quoting, "Since the purpose of a reincarnation is to carry on the work of the predecessor, the new Dalai Lama will be born in the free world, so that the traditional mission of the Dalai Lama, that is to be the voice for universal compassion, the spiritual leader of Tibetan Buddhism, will continue." This marks the first time that the Dalai Lama has specifically said that his successor would be born in the free world, which he describes as outside China. Beijing has insisted it will choose his own successor, calling the leader a separatist.
The 14th Dalai is not purely a religious figure, but a political pariah conducting anti-China separatist activities under the guise of religion. What Dalai says or does cannot change the prosperity of the Tibetan autonomous region. We hope that relevant parties should not provide a platform for such anti-China separatists.
Before we come to who could become the successor, let's understand how it happens. In Tibetan Buddhism, it is believed that the Dalai Lama can reincarnate and choose the body in his next life. And there are some clauses to it too. The next Dalai Lama should be born around the same time that the current Dalai Lama passes away. There are 3 ways to find the next Dalai Lama. First, a monk could dream about him. Second, an oracle lake in the highlands of Tibet could point towards it. And third, one could follow the smoke from the pyre of the current Dalai Lama. But before, the search was restricted to the region of Tibet. Now it's worldwide. The 14th Dalai Lama was chosen through the second way, where a vision from the lake pointed towards his house. While this will be followed by senior monks in Dharamshala, China has been categorical in denying the process. Beijing has said that the next incarnation will be born inside China and approved by the atheist Chinese government. So could there be a point where we could see 2 Dalai Lamas?
Truth. We have truth. Power of truth. Chinese communist power of gun. long run, power of truth is much stronger than power of gun.
The Dalai Lama seems confident that he will live till 110. So in the next 20 odd years, there could come a point where you will see front page headlines on the 15th Dalai Lama. And this will be a tricky ground for India. Going by the current leader's words, there is a possibility that this successor will be from India. The entire situation is already a sore point in New Delhi's relationship with Beijing. After his passing, a sizable Tibetan community in exile will continue on Indian soil, and among it could be the 15th Dalai Lama. On the diplomatic front, Beijing could demand the closure of institutions related to the Tibetans across India. But there is also a harsher possibility, where Beijing could try to split the community by infiltrating in India's Himalayan region, which will have security implications for India. Hence, the policy question of how India might handle such a situation, should it arise, is of crucial importance domestically, as well as for the eastern border. Aside from domestic concerns, China is also bothered about the West's moral high horse over the Tibetans. The Chinese have felt that even after Britain's withdrawal from India post-colonization, the United States continued to pursue efforts to separate Tibet from China. Remnants of that show in US's policy towards the Dalai Lama. Tibet has become a political agenda. The US Congress enacted the Tibetan Policy and Support Act in 2020. It was signed by President Donald Trump. Today, he's the president again, and like much of his foreign policy, we can't say for certain where Trump stands. Dalai Lama literally means ocean of wisdom. India might need some wisdom right now, because even though New Delhi is not central to the issue, it definitely can't avoid the topic for long. Even 6 decades after he left Tibet, Dalai Lama still holds significant influence over the hearts and minds of the Tibetans. So if the next leader is chosen from India, China is bound to protest, and the West is likely to welcome it. In the middle will be India, forced to take a side, and its famous balancing act will be put to test.